Despite the time I spent recently trying to unravel some of Nii Noi Nortey's inner workings through his art, he remained an enigma. I had learned that he is a genius of the most curious sort. Worryingly though, he is threatened with fading into the shadows because his own country of Ghana, to which he is unconditionally committed, has not been able to provide the sponsorship nor find enough value in this treasure that is theirs. By sitting Ninoy down and subjecting him to direct questioning, I wondered if I could better chip away at his core and understand more about his genesis. I first asked him about his influences.
Well, put it this way. Growing up, James Brown and Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding and Aretha Franklin and Diana Ross and Supremes, like everybody else, seriously influenced musically. I think it's when I picked up saxophone. And then the saxophone influences from John Coltrane, naturally, And so many other people like John Coltrane, Archie Shepp, Pharoah Sanders, a lot of other people like that. Piano Cecil Taylor, Sonra, Thelonious Monk. I like everybody actually. I was a learner, so I didn't have any choice but to just sample what there was. And everybody was good to me.
It was the 1970s when Ninoy first left Ghana and went to the UK as an economics student. He was based in the city of Birmingham. It was at this time that he grew more receptive musically and was introduced to the saxophone, which became his primary instrument of choice and the one that launched his career as a musician.
Well, it's always good to be chronological. That takes me back to Birmingham. And one of the first groups I played with was a group called Brujo, I think. And we used to play in the pubs on Wednesdays. I remember there was a pub called Barrel Organ. And we used to go there and play every Wednesday. And that was nice because it was a learning platform. The band was there and I was there to practice every day to go and play on Wednesday. And I enjoyed it very much. Music, pub music, playing the pubs. That was our outlet in those days. The band was good. The band was good. Guitar, bass, conga player, good drummer, another saxophone player. So I was in good company. I was a learner, beginner actually. So I wasn't shining that much. I was eager to learn.
Ninoy is accomplished on a wide range of other instruments in wind, percussion and strings. He is especially proficient in and a bastion of knowledge about traditional instruments from Africa and around the world. Ninoy had to return to Africa, Ghana, in order to connect with this formidable aspect of his repertoire. Unsurprisingly though, he's very modest about his multifaceted talents and his role in introducing traditional instruments to African music creation in the diaspora.
In the 70s, when I lived in Birmingham, I was practicing mainly saxophones and I was playing mainly improvised music. I came to a point when I realized there was something else I needed to add music. So I took a trip to Ghana in the 70s. And I introduced myself to a lot of musical instruments from there on, xylophones, congas and flutes, and another sort of was there too. There were a lot of people, around. They influenced my direction. African musical instruments became part of my arsenal. So apart from saxophones, I could add xylophones and drums and flutes, and string instruments and things. Especially in the idiom of free music, improvised music, you just needed the sound of the instrument, a representation of the sound. So you don't have to be as good as the virtuoso player to feature the instrument. You feature the instrument as a political necessity. So you're not a virtuoso. You don't have to be a virtuoso. You just have to show the worth of the instrument and its functions within our political struggles. Going back to England, UK specifically, there was a group of African Dawn which was a group of poets and musicians. I joined them in the beginning. I introduced a lot of things to the outfit, especially musical instruments. Their poetry was very good. I met Sheikh, Kwesi Owusu, Wanjeku. It was a good team too, you know. And we traveled around the UK. It was well funded. And then I played there for a couple of years. Then I left and went to Zimbabwe with Misty Roots, the reggae group. In between, there were so many other groups that you played with. You know, London was a teeming place. You know, you played here and there, in that club, in that club. You visited that city and that city. With that group today, that group tomorrow. You know, some are forgotten along the line. We came into Misty Roots. We went to Zimbabwe and stayed there for about 6 months. And it was influential in so many ways. Came back to the UK and did a European tour, which took about another 6 months. And that was good because it took us through Europe, you know, playing all kinds of schools and colleges and polytechnics and all kinds of places. That exposed the music to the white folks at the time, the reggae, you know. It was easier to get Misty Roots than Bob Marley because Misty Roots was in the UK. Anyway, I played that circuit for a little while. Then I realized, no, I need to come back to my traditional things. So I left Misty at the time when I should have been there, you know, because there was no money at the time. When the money was going to come is when I decided to go and do my African music, you know. And with my skills on all the musical instruments, it was easy to make a switch. Find a very compatible group of people to play the music with. So in effect, we were a very Pan-Africanist group. And it attracted a lot of people and events. When there was African Liberation Day and those kind of things, we played those events. When there was Bob Marley something, or Rastafari something, or there was Scabi something, whatever there was, which had an African theme, our music was relevant. You know? That also went on for a few years, but also because it was funded by the then GLT. And towards the end of their life, they decided to fund black music. So the tail end of their life is when there was a lot of money pumped into our community for music and art and those kind of things. So a lot of people benefited from that late start. And we were one of those who had a little money to travel, buy instruments, play workshops, you know, those kind of things, you know. Like I always say, I was a politician before I became a musician. Yeah. I was influenced by Ngugi, I was influenced by Chinwezu, Sheikh Anta Diop, a lot of African American writers, you know, like Karovitz and Maulana Karenga and, you know, Malifi Kiti Asante. You know. So, you know, I've been influenced by all this, the Pan-Africans, Marcus Garvey, you know, Malcolm X, you know, everybody, you know. Marshall, Biko, you know, Cabral, everybody, we read everybody, you know. We read everybody, for it was the time. Everybody. Frantz Fanon, Gidan Kimati, you know, everybody was there, you know.
So obviously you're Pan-Africanist, you're pro-black, you're pro-African, but what about your relationship with Europeans and white people?
Oh. You know, me, I was influenced by a lot of the white left people. You know?
Right.
When I went to England as a young person, the people, you know, you were at college with, and the people you shared flats with, and streets with, happen to be young white radicals.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? And they had books that I had no idea about, you know. So I was influenced also by a lot of left-wing politics.
Yeah.
You know? I met a lot of people who were older than me, who had gone through it, and who also were interested in the direction I need to follow. So I've got a lot of books, a lot of magazines, a lot of musical instruments, a lot of ideas. You know, I read all the left wing. I read everybody. You know, I read Gramsci, I read Lenin, I read Trotsky, I read everybody. You know, Althusser, I read everybody. One Dimensional Man, what's his name? Marcuse, you know. I read everybody because it was school day. Yes, I studied very hard, but not in college.
Right.
I studied hard and argued hard because, you know, you leave you leave somebody in the flat who had another position, so you could argue. So the next thing to influence us will be our belief systems, our spirituality, the center of which is Egypt. Unfortunately for us, there were great intellectuals in that period who made available reading materials like Shekata Diop, like Avan Setima, Ben Yohanan, all those people had wonderful things to write about, and we benefited from these new ideas. We had a political training to understand, those new trends. So me personally, it makes sense for me to inculcate that into my music. So, 1988, I finally moved to Ghana. In my area of music, more of a traditional style of music, there's been a lot of interesting things. An African orchestra, for instance, blazed a whole new trail in the usage of African musical instruments and presentation, compositional styles. There was Mustafa Tete Adetu, who had his academy, where he nurtured a lot of skills and talents. Ghana Batu was here, still raring and going. There were a lot of highlight groups and popular bands which carried the tradition on. Even more modern expressions like Ojo and Tree. My art, if it should be called my art, it's really out of my music, because it's the art of the music that the musical art came out. So, for instance, the diversity and range of musical instruments go into making sculptures, without which there will be no sculpture. So once the sculpture is assembled, then it has a voice. The voice being the musical instruments which become the components of that sculpture. So you use a saxophone, and of course, the saxophone sound comes out of that sculpture. You use a drum likewise. So my art really is out of my music. We are one and the same thing actually. The art is the visual side of the music. We just have to do our work, and if perchance the work survives us, then that's it. The nature of it is that our works don't survive because there are detractors and people who destroy good things, and they also get paid for it, and they do it well, and they outnumber us. Take somebody like Ghana Ba, for instance. Ghana Ba started his struggles in the 40s into the 50s, and was still very organized because he recorded his own things. He went to the studio, recorded all his classic things. He wasn't sponsored. He did all these things by himself. By 1956, 57, Ghana Ba had recorded things that predated Ghana as a nation. But look how, he went through the whole Ghana birth process, and then when he died, say 10, 20 years ago, he was still struggling to make his art felt. And this is somebody who recorded his music and had more exposure than people like us will ever have. And if he struggled to survive, then people like us are really lucky to be alive. To survive, you don't know. We've left out documents. This is a document. If this document survives, it's only the document that will survive. It's not the practice behind the document. So, it won't influence anybody.
Ninoy continues to share his music with anyone who cares to listen. He still gigs with like-minded musicians at his own Anya Arts Library, on the fringe circuits of Accra, or by invitation to international events. Follow Ninoy on his social media channels to find out where you can next catch him and experience firsthand his genius in action.